See you around, Burton.
Never can tell.
Bye, Jack.
We really shook the pillars of heaven, didn't we, Wayne?
No horse shit, Jack.
No horse shit.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Bricked Pit. This is unfortunately our final episode. I am Jason, and joining me today is the man who has been legally prevented from being in any future podcasts, Adam.
Damn you, Will Forte, and your stupid legal advisors.
Yeah, we also can't mention too much of that. Remember that, Adam, the entire settlement deal.
Whatever. They'll see me in hell. I don't care anymore.
We all signed NDAs out, Adam.
That other voice you heard was our other host, the future host of Pod People, a podcast retrospective of podcast reviews, Josh.
Actually, I just pinned a deal to take over Anderson Cooper and Lisa Ling's place on Channel 1, available in middle schools throughout America. Is Channel 1 still a thing? Do they still make kids watch that? Or are we just aging ourselves even further?
Some version of it now. I think it's CNN something or other, but yeah, it's the same bit.
The Serbians are going to shoot at me like they shot at Anderson Cooper.
We'll all be better off for it.
Yeah.
It'll be the best thing that ever happened to you.
I'm getting shipped off to Azerbaijan or something in the morning.
And I, next year in the year 2025, will bring my own true crime podcast. We'll discuss the corruption of a mayor, his association with a known criminal, and the corporate clown that puppet mastered him. Next year, look for Would You Like Lies with That? The Mayor McCheese scandal.
Dude, that may be the funniest pun you've ever seen.
Dude, I told you I was going out with both barrels blazing.
I kind of want to hold you to making that now. A podcast about the Mayor McCheese scandal.
When he said he was doing a true crime podcast and then paused, I was concerned it was going to be the murder of two co-hosts of a podcast. How he got away with it.
What happened to the two co-hosts of the Brick Pit? They disappeared on December 19th, 2024.
He's going to write a book called If I Did It.
Jason would have the stones to pull that off. Only Jason and OJ are Jason and
I mean, this may be our last public opportunity to do this, but if I turn up missing or dead, it was Jason.
All I'm going to say is I don't have to worry about Norm Macdonald making jokes about me.
He'll make them in hell.
That's right. Just know if you murder me and I go to hell, we're all going to be making fun of you, Jason. That's what we'll do full time. Is me and Norm Macdonald roasting you from hell.
This podcast is Jason's hell.
I was going to say I don't understand how that is like, bad on me when you're in hell.
That's a foregone conclusion.
It's like when Dwight was giving in the office was giving like his dream scenario, and he was like an assistant manager in like his ultimate fantasy. And Jim's like, even in your own greatest fantasy, you're the assistant manager.
Who was that guy that ran for president on the Democrat side? Edwards, John Edwards. Remember him?
Ed O'Neill.
He ran and he was asked for in one of those softball pieces, what would your dream job be? And he said the foreman of a factory, and he owned like 11 factories or something. And they're like, you could do that today. You could just, you could go down there right now.
Wasn't he the one that had the love child with the Raelian?
Maybe, but he's
the one. There was a whole like cult of people that thought they were like space aliens or something, and this
He
dude
was the one that got
having
the
it off with.
$500 haircut, and that was the big thing that kicked him
Remember
out.
when
was
stuff
back
like
when
that
$500
precluded you from
haircut.
public office?
$500
Wasn't that great? Gary Hart had a picture of him on a boat with a woman that was not his wife, and he was not allowed to even speak in public ever again.
Which we mention all that to give you clues as to why we're ending the podcast.
The giant success that such banter has created for us. We're walking away anyway.
We have painted targets on ourselves from the media titans like Elon.
Actually, they just found out we bought this podcast used, and it's just full of asbestos.
It's been condemned. We actually knew that a year ago, but we tried to tough it out. So that was
Doge has found that the government would save so much more money if they didn't have to monitor our communications. It's such a resource drain on the American public.
They keep losing NSA agents to the insane asylum from getting
You think they would want to keep us on the air then?
That's
like, we're cutting government one NSA agent at a time.
They got to pay for the health care, though.
They're just broadcasting us over Iran all the time. It's like
the truth is that the continuing resolution that had our funding in it was chopped earlier today. We tried to sneak in another 5 years funding, and it just didn't make it.
All we were asking for was like $1.50 and some hamburgers, and maybe that got.
It was called the Wembley provision.
That's 10 times what we're giving you now.
So we did this for almost 4 years, I think. If you had to guess, total proceeds, monetary proceeds, what was it?
Dude, we're in the hole.
Like we made like $30, but we spent.
Oh yeah, of course. Now, excluding expenses, just what did we actually bring in net income?
What our revenues were?
Or gross income, I guess. Yeah,
about
what
$30, $40.
$10 a year divided by 3. This was not the retirement plan I'd hoped it would be.
We can just like pull the cork off though and go like totally crazy and break all of our rules, like super political, because I know that you're a staunch Stalinist. Right. And you're a Maoist, right?
Maoist more than a Little Red Book. That's the Little Red Book right there that you see in the background. I was just reading it before. I could quote passages if you'd like.
The Khmer Rouge, man, those dudes. They weren't tough enough.
I honestly, one of the things that made me interested in doing the podcast with you, Josh, was your offhand comment that Pol Pot had some good ideas. I mean, that was.
Pol Pot had a wife and kids. Wow.
He was a family man. He couldn't be that bad.
How can you be named Pot and be bad?
If only he had the willpower to actually see it all through.
Jesus.
and that's why it's in.
Yeah. I think you ought to leave that in so people can see what used to get on the cutting room floor.
No, I fully expected that to be on. I think also it's like that's not even like contemporary. It's not like we're talking about like Syria or something, you know?
Right. I mean,
Yahoo, what is it? Syria, wasn't that? That would be a great rebranding for that guy. Failed actor becomes failed state. I mean, I don't know.
We all just showed up to this podcast with like a gallon of gasoline and matches. We're burning the pit. Just right.
I heard that.
The truth is the pit has been a trash pit fire. It's been a tire fire that will burn long past us. It's like the Simpsons tire.
I do worry this is like the golden record they sent into space. Like somehow this is the one thing that survives all of humanity, and this future aliens are trying to
This is the deciding vote on whether or not to annihilate Earth or not.
Humanity.
They're like, all right, we got this last thing to look to view. And it's like it's dead even on whether they should annihilate them or not. They listen to the first episode, like nuke them.
Done.
That's what the drones are, people.
I just want to say it's really weird how the universe kind of lines things up, and maybe not the right moment, because like right after we had the discussion about just putting everything to bed, I saw an online article about the top 100 podcasts out there that you need to listen to, and we still weren't on it. So
I feel like we're doing like Seinfeld, but the opposite. We're going out on the bottom. We can't go any lower, guys. Time to hang it up.
To be fair to us,
to be fair,
for a hot minute when we were what was that Chartable? Was that what the website that we were using?
Which shut down, by the way. Chartable doesn't exist anymore.
So that was
that should tell you something.
Yeah, but for those who don't know, it's like a Podcasters Insiders rankings, and it monitored inputs, and one of the factors of it was completion time, like how many episodes of people started they would actually finish, and you got extra points for that. And we ranked, it was a very niche category. I think it was film history, right? That was the category that we did the best in. And for a couple of weeks, we were in the top 20. I think we even got in the top 5 one time in that subcategory.
I don't think we got that high. Those pumping brakes there,
but we did pretty well. I mean, and we
had some moments. It never really caught fire, but it wasn't ever going to, because we're not the Hawk Tua girl, and
we don't market ourselves. We did.
Yeah, we don't make an effort.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, the thing is, like the effort it would take to do the TikToks and video shorts and stuff. That's another thing too. Is like video is everything, and we're some ugly sons of bitches.
We're not. Yeah, we also don't want to be like doxxed.
Yeah. Well, we chose the audio format for a very specific reason.
Yes, we have faces for radio. That's for sure. And inside baseball on this, I think that I think that it's true what we heard, and I think the feedback we got from other much more successful podcasters, which I took that to heart, was that they really liked the way we did our podcast. And I felt that was I think that's kind of the accolades that I'm most pleased about, friends and family and and also the first couple times that like true strangers to all of us kind of reached out and said, "Hey, I really like your podcast." And none of us knew who they were. That was a milestone for me. You created something in the universe that someone somewhere found, and they enjoyed it for even a minute. And that, that's all you can really do with art, I guess.
Right.
So, and then they went to rehab.
I think that honestly that was my favorite thing of doing this, is that like all the other podcasters that we met and became friendly with, that I still like talk to on X and stuff, and see even some fans, like that's like really cool, that and like super appreciate everybody that came on that like were like, "Hey, you want to be on our show?" And they're like, "Yes." Like, yeah. Whoa, hang on. I wasn't expecting that answer.
except Gary Sinise, who I did actually reach out to, who did not respond.
Adam's last vestige of innocence died. He's like, I think we can make this happen. I was like, dude, no, this is not. Are you serious?
I offered money. I offered cash money on the barrel to his publicist, and they were
$35 and a pack of Camel Lights. It's not going to get Gary Sinise.
Yeah, he's a Pall Mall man. Everybody knows that.
He's refined. No, but seriously, like think of like all the cool people that we've had on, and to be honest, much more successful. Like they were coming down in the gutter to be on the show,
for sure.
And like the fact that I was on the Green Church podcast a couple of times, which was like awesome, because it's like anybody that we had on our show, I listen to their podcast, and I do not listen to a lot of podcasts. Yeah. So like, and a lot of them, like I consider like internet friends at the very least, but people I would meet in real life and have a beer with. They're all very cool. It was cool getting voicemails from people in the early days.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we've met a lot of really cool people that had a lot of really great insights into films and everything. It's really fun talking about something you're passionate with other people and sharing that passion.
Yeah, it felt like being back in film school and sitting at the bar after watching frickin' Alice in the Cities or something and having to decompress from like, good God, what?
Just to get a little saccharine for a moment, I want to sincerely thank both of you because obviously I didn't go to film school, but as I am a film lover,
It shows.
Yeah, that's fine. But that was the point is, when you guys first started talking about this, the reason I wanted to jump on board was because I wanted to learn something about a medium that I love, but that I didn't know a lot about as from a technical perspective. And you guys opened a window into that universe for me, which I think I've really grown in my knowledge from it. And I really just enjoyed kind of having that experience. I'm on the whole, I'm really glad that we were able to do this because you both of you forced me to watch movies that I wouldn't have otherwise seen, for good or bad sometimes. But on the aggregate, I really enjoyed. And I think one of the things I've really learned is that Jason and I are very copacetic in our opinions of movies. Josh and I are not.
Yeah, I think honestly the most surprising thing of this whole adventure was how Magnolia didn't hit as I thought it would with you. Like that shook me to my core. It ended. We'll never be able to go back to the way it was before.
I know. I miss our snuggles. I really do feel like the withdrawal of affection after that episode was really the core that brought down the whole podcast.
That was the first domino to fall. So we did get some responses as I announced on X that we were going on permanent vacation, and we got some responses. So I'll read these to you guys since y'all don't do the X very much. So the Green Shirt Podcast said, "Oh man, end of an era. I'll miss laughing along with and yelling at my phone at you chuckleheads." So,
yeah.
And again, that man, Green Church Podcast, those dudes are awesome and hilarious and definitely worth listening to. And then we've got Rusty the Red, which I know personally and Jason knows personally. I don't think you've ever gamed with him, but we're talking about him this past week. But he said, "You'll appreciate this, Adam." He said, "Well, as a guy who doesn't know movies very well, I identified with Adam more than the other two hosts." I kid. I learned a lot and watched more than one recommendation because of you guys. Are you ending it before Adam finds out about the Frasier song? And that is, I don't know if I told you, but I'll tell you now.
No.
So I admitted on X that it was like this year, like within the past couple of months, that I realized that Kelsey Grammer sang the Frasier theme.
How did you not know that?
Yeah, that's what my wife said. I was like, wait a second.
That's him.
Is that Kelsey Grammer singing? She goes, are you serious? I was like, I've never been more serious in my life. She was like, oh my God. Yes.
What was more appalling is right after that it says, what's really funny is that Kelsey Grammer also played a character named Frasier Crane on Cheers.
Is there some kind of relation?
There's actually an episode of Frasier. It's where the Seattle holds a Frasier Crane Day. So it's a really good episode. And in the real life, they also Seattle held a Frasier Crane Day. And so the credits at the end of that episode are him at some park in Seattle singing that as the outro.
I haven't got to that episode in my rewatch yet.
So, but it's, that was the
episode where Diane made the play that was Cheers was like, that was like so recursive and postmodern and brilliant. Like I was just like, wow, this is some heavy stuff that Frasier's throwing out on me, man. We need to get back to Eddie. So yeah, like when I first posted that, Rusty, who knows from the podcast how much you love Frasier, is like, does Adam know that? And I was like, I don't think he does.
Uh-huh.
So
if we're doing shout outs, I have a friend, Aaron, who I've known for many, many years, who is a stalwart and regular listener, who I was the first person I told that we were shutting down, and was legitimately and earnestly disappointed in that. And that, that makes me feel appreciative that, people out there actually took this seriously and cared about what we were doing.
And if we don't mention you by name, no,
it's not because we didn't.
Yeah. Right. Because like there's the Patricks, there's the
Super Marcy
and Bede.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we got there's so many people that like we have interacted with on a personal level
that have been supportive in so many ways.
And that are just like great people. And that's like, there's so much garbage that happens in the world. And like to me, this is kind of like what the internet was supposed to be. Like the fact that I know, like we know people in Australia and in Ireland and Los Angeles, that faraway place, that, I genuinely feel like if we could call up and be like, hey, let's go have a beer, let's go watch a movie. And it would not be like internet stalker creepy or into murder. And we're ourselves are separated physically, but are very close, even though our mortal shells are separated. And we will still remain friends because we I think we mentioned it before. We have a weekly gaming session. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to figure out how to end that.
It's a suicide pact, buddy. There's only one way out.
The story goes on and on through every iteration of role playing game.
As a counterpoint to all the modeling that we've got here, I do want to point out that early, I think within like the first 5 episodes, somebody did a review. Do you remember this? and they said, this is something to the effect of, this is crap. But then the second line was, and all 3 of these guys sound fat. And that was one of the funniest,
I remember that.
Funniest insults I've ever had in my whole life.
I must have like mentally blocked that because that's a very damning sentence.
These 3 guys sound fat.
I mean, points for accuracy, wrong. I guess.
But, I mean, literally on the internet, that's just kind of a shotgun blast insult. You're going to hit something eventually.
It's pretty, middle-aged guys giving their opinion, they're fat.
Talking about Star Wars.
To be fair, that probably was low-hanging fruit for that insulter.
If they hate the Star Wars so much, why do they talk about the Star Wars so much? It is a primal wound, is why.
So I would like to go back and kind of talk about the beginnings of the podcast. I guess it was about like 2019 or so. Josh was like, we should do a podcast. Like, what will we do?
With no intention of actually doing it.
Yeah.
As with many of Josh's ideas, it's mostly just a throwaway statement.
Pretty much, yeah.
We should build a rally car. Okay, Josh.
We'll just talk about movies. I was like, dude, everybody does that. I don't want to do that. And so we didn't do anything. And I was on the AV club's like comment, and they were doing like 2 of them were doing a podcast on the weekends. Like, hey, put your questions down below, and whoever's questions gets the most likes, we'll ask it on our podcast. And I was like, well, there's this thing that Josh was talking to me about when we call it the bricked pit, and I explained it. One of our friends, he got upset because in the movie 300. When Leonidas kicks Xerxes' messenger into the bottomless pit, our friend was like, it's all bricked. Who bricked a brick pit? And totally destroys his...
It still makes me laugh all these years later.
It totally destroys his suspension of disbelief. Everything else is okay. But this one little thing takes him out. And so we coined this phrase, and I asked him, well, what's your brick pit? It was the number 1 liked comment on that.
Wow.
And those jerks didn't mention it at all in the podcast.
Sons of bitches.
Oh.
But everyone was like, dude, that's brilliant. Like, that should actually enter into the lexicon talking about movies. I was like, wow, people really like this. And then it pissed me off they didn't use it. It's like, Josh, we're going to do a podcast. We're calling it The Brick Pit.
This whole thing's a spite podcast.
That's why we do anything, Adam.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And then Josh was absolutely, well, we need a third person. Who should it be? And we're just kind of like going through. It's like, well,
They asked 11 people before me.
Yes.
I was not your first, nor your 10th.
Yeah, no, actually not, because we were sitting there thinking, it was like, Adam likes a lot of the same movies that we like. He likes John Carpenter and stuff like that. Let's ask Adam.
And we barely knew you at the point. Like,
That's
you had
true.
just started
Yeah,
gaming with us.
For quote, new friends. I needed that too. We did this for me, it was a COVID project, basically. We were still kind of in the thick of COVID coming out of it. And I'm not usually an introvert, although I have introverted tendencies, but I needed to talk to people.
Right.
That was what
my original inception is I wanted to do like a Playhouse 90 or Twilight Zone-esque kind of radio shows. Because I didn't really see the worth of just
yapping,
talking about garbage.
Yeah. Neither
but
did.
It turns out that's a lot less work. But I was like, and still it was like during the time of like Skype and stuff before, I had imagined taking some of Jason and I's short stories that we had written and developing them as like radio plays and doing different radio plays.
There's nothing to say that can't happen.
No,
ever,
but what makes it not happen is like that's an insane amount of work. But what keeps the door open is like now we do know so many people, who like would like maybe jump in on like a one-off on that product. Like, hey, here's the script. Can you come and read this part? And they all have better voices than us. So
and they also have that thing. What's it called? Talent. They have talent. And also our AI Christmas thing, which was intended to be something larger.
But it's the
original idea that we had, I was like, and we had it last Christmas, so like, and we have a whole year to do this. And the force is
pause right here if you're
completely in people's control.
How long? When did we start that? That's the
exactly
the idea last year at this time.
That's exactly my point. But the original idea is like, hey, let's get an AI to write this script, and then we'll get all of our podcast friends and do like a table read.
Right, that's what we were going to do.
And that didn't happen. Yeah. But that would have been a cool thing.
Couldn't have been bothered. If you take nothing away from the past 4 years, it couldn't be bothered.
Yeah. If we were independently wealthy or didn't have like other life things, work and kids and school and whatever else going on, I think
and not lazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we were retired, I'd have the energy to do more and focus on it and.
Well, I mean, ideally, I think it would be fun to at least do a season, like 4 or 5, like 30-minute radio plays.
Yeah.
But again, like, that's a lot of work.
You could do one a year. I think that's more our speed.
Yeah.
One over a course of 5 years.
Yeah, that too.
Patrick Rothfuss will finish the King Killer Chronicles before we release an episode.
George R.R. Martin will finish the Game of Thrones series.
He's like, you guys work slow. I'm working on my DOS word processor. What a dingbat.
I will say, I think part of my enjoyment of it, because like I don't really like the review podcast so much, simply because a lot of people do them. Like there's so many out there. I think there's some people who do some interesting, like our friends over at Vintage Video. the idea of actually going back and like reviewing every movie from the year,
Yeah.
which is insanely just
And
work heavy. Yeah.
so I just listened to their basket case episode. It's just like there's certain episodes that'll come up and I'll be like, oh my god, I cannot wait to listen to this.
Listen to that. Yeah.
And basket case, I was like, oh, so Patrick like not only watched all the basket case movies in preparation, he watched all the Hickenlooper verse films that are tangentially related to. I was like, God, that dude is a machine. Like,
that's literally how he watched it. He just lined up a bunch of VHS players and plugged them into his brain.
I think he like chops up VHS and like snorts it like cocaine and like just assimilates it. Like,
but what I'll say though is, I think what I have enjoyed about it, and I think what other people liked about it, is we don't get so much into the review aspect of it. We talk about film theory, film history, tropes, and then how those work in the films that we talk about.
Yeah.
And sometimes we talk how they do work and how they don't work. And that means some bad films over the years. Sorry, Adam, that you didn't realize the stuff we put down weren't all going to be gems.
Yeah. No, it's because right, the bad helps you appreciate the good more. In my experience, like knowing, because what I would have otherwise done, but for this experience, was if I would go look at an Ebert review or an IMDb rating or a Rotten Tomatoes rating, and if it's below a certain number, right, I have finite time. So even with the bad movies have value, but I want to watch a curated list of bad movies from somebody I trust. Because there's a lot of bad movies that all have really crappy ratings, and I can't tell which ones are actually valuable because they're so terrible they're worth watching, right? And that's something that you gave me and it helps like counterbalance, right?
Well, I think what we were additive to was in that realm, because there is media literacy is not great now, and I think a lot of it is, we can blame it on a lot of things, but it's all reviews, and a lot of it boils down to kind of the cinema sins, like nitpicky stuff, and it's like that's not real critique, and it's like it's informative to know history of film, and if you're a cinephile, like if you just want to go watch Marvel movies, that's fine. If you just want to go watch movies or whatever, that's fine. But if you're interested in it as an art form, then you need to dive deeper, and you need to know about montage and Kuleshov effect and like the philosophies behind structuralism and postmodernism to fully understand on the subtextual and deeper level what you're consuming. Because whether you realize it or not, was it the guys at Red Letter Media always say that you may not have noticed, but your brain did. Yeah. And it's like that's important if you want to really look at it as something more than just entertainment. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of people making films now or making decisions on films now that don't see that you say Truffaut and they're like, God bless you. I don't know what you're what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, context is king.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what a lot of both modern films and, modern film criticism, so to speak, on the internet lacks. They don't understand context. They don't understand that even though a character in a movie says something, that doesn't mean that that's the theme of the film. Like, that could very well be there for you to go, that guy's a jerk, I don't like him. And, no one looks at the big picture, no pun intended on that anymore. And I think understanding aspects of film kind of helps people do that. I do think that some of my favorite ones are when we get real kind of deep into some of the history and some of the theory. Uh, uh, my favorite, we've said it like 3 times already, the Kuleshov effect. That's a very important principle of film and film theory, and I think it's a very relevant concept, especially now, that you have to understand that what you're watching is someone else's idea of reality or fiction, and you're only getting the information, whether it be news or whatever, that they're allowing you to get. And you need to be aware of that when you watch these documentaries and everything like that. That's more important now than it's ever been.
Well, I think it's interesting too, because it's not just in the documentary space, because
well, it's news and it's everything.
Well, there's a subreddit called "Why Were They Filming," and it's like it shows these things, and it's like that's the question. It's like, is this real? Because why is somebody filming this? Like, why does somebody have their phone out? And you see that a lot, especially on like TikTok and YouTube Shorts. You see these things where somebody's like, this person's about to find out that their wife's cheating on them. It's like, yeah, but somebody's sitting there with their freaking phone open and like filming them. Like they're not like, they see that what's happening. Like, like they understand if this is supposed to be real. They understand there's somebody holding a camera in their face. Why are they filming? Probably because it's not real. Right. Like that's, and that's the thing. It's like most people, especially younger people, don't like. My kids will show me stuff, and I'm like, it's
a lack of media.
That didn't happen. Like they'll be like, this guy took a woman to Cheesecake Factory for their first date. She's going. It's like, why is she filming that? Because it's not real. Because it's a bit. Being passed off as reality.
Yeah, they want you to click on it and watch it and share it with your friends. Like, look at this.
Or it's rage bait. It's like, so it's funny. Like that simple question, why were they filming, kind of alleviates you from 90% of the BS out there. And you can still enjoy it and say that's funny, but it's not real.
Yeah.
Like that's what concerns me, is that there's no discernment on, because nobody,
it's a new era of exploitation film.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's move on before we actually get into a topic on this episode, because that's not the point of this at all. But like I said, I think those are some of my favorites, is simply because one, we're getting back into that film school thing. Like, I felt 20 years younger again, just like going back into that aspect of, and it also reawoken that passion that we had back then, that real life just kind of slapped out of us.
I'm gonna be somebody. Shut up.
So I don't know if I've told this story before, but I think this is a great time to tell it. The time that the best lesson Josh and I ever learned in film school came to fore on us, and that was when our teacher told us, if anyone ever tells you about how great it is to work in the film industry, they're probably trying to scam you.
Yeah, that's funny.
So it was maybe a year or two, we're out of film school. Josh gives me a call. He's living on the coast. He's like, yeah, there's going to be like this production company or something setting up at one of the casinos down here. They're looking for actors and actresses and tech people and all that kind of stuff behind the camera. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, come on down. We'll go to it. So we go. And we're like sitting in a group outside before they open up the conference room. And they didn't charge us anything. So that was like, okay, so they're not trying to scam us there. But then they come over, what do you guys do? You want to be extra stuff? It's like, no, we want to be crew. Like, we want to do behind the camera stuff. We went to film school. Oh. Why don't you stand over here 25 feet away from everyone else?
Don't poison the well.
Yeah.
Maybe this might be a scam.
Yeah, and if you have to pay to get the job, then it's not a real job.
Yes, you don't for agents up front.
Yeah, that goes for multi-level marketing too.
Yeah,
just Just forewarning you, you're not a CEO. You're you are the product.
Yeah, then they brought us to the room and said, "Oh, we can't mention their names because they're so famous." And like this sounds like crap. And it's like, we're going to show you this video. Like, this is like '02, and so they show us like the first like viral video. It's a short film. You can still find it. It's called 405, and it's amazing because it's back before really high speed internet caught on. It was still dial up era, and so if you wanted to download like this 10-15 minute film, you had to like wait like 12 hours for the whole thing to download. Just that one thing, because if you try to do anything else, it would kill your bandwidth. And it was a viral video, but it was literally just two guys in LA who like cobbled together some software, and they shot a film with special effects about a plane landing on like the 405 in the middle of the day, landing on top of this Jeep. And it's like, and they were talking about it, and I looked over at Josh, like, I bet they're talking about 405. And then they showed that movie, and it's like, they have absolutely nothing to do with this movie. It's like, it's just two dudes in LA that did it themselves as a calling card for special effects. And then there's like, and we did this movie with Rodney Dangerfield, and it wasn't even like Meet Wally Sparks. It's like post Meet Wally Sparks direct to video Dangerfield.
It's like Rodney Dangerfield in the hospital.
What? Walking around with an IV bag on every shot.
That's his character's in the hospital dying.
And
I get no respect. Even my bed sores don't like me. You know.
That's a better bit than what we saw.
Yeah. That's when it came out, and they were talking about like, oh, well, you pay us some money, we take you to Atlanta, and we get you a film. And that's when Josh and I really took notice. Like,
you slapped that knee and went, all right, I'm out.
that's where we looked around. It's like, yeah, we're a couple of guys in our early 20s. Everyone else is a middle-aged woman with their like 10-year-old kid here.
The misadventures of Josh and Jason.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about our favorite episodes, or?
Well, first I do want to another big lesson we learned in film school. So we had two sides of the coin. We had the idealistic, very esoteric film teacher. Like I would get headaches in his class, honest to God, because he was like one of the. To this day, I'd probably say one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. Like, just one of those people that's like so smart that they're almost beyond like
mortal man.
Yeah, they're not fitting into society, right? And he would, we'd watch these films, and he would just like get down into these philosophical rabbit holes, and it's like, my tiny brain was just like scrambling to keep up, and I would like lay in bed at night for like days afterwards, like going like, I don't even know what he said, but I think it was really important. And like, it took a long time to suss out what he was, because like I've talked about before about the Jungian, or not even prior to Jung, was it anyway, like the returning to the womb and like watching film and the mirror stage of development stuff. Yeah. Like, he would get like that level. And then on the other side, we had the bitter pragmatist. and you need both, but it's like, you don't want to be 20 years old and have your professor say, if you want to be a director, you need to walk out the store, move to LA, print up some business cards saying you're a director, and tell everybody you're a director till somebody believes you. You're a director.
You had Cabbage Head on the other end being like, tag on a cigar. But he was the kid.
He was largely correct. Yeah, absolutely large. But it's like, he's like, I don't want to burst your bubbles. He's like, but that's what it takes to make it. It's like you've got to just be obstinate and lie, or be confident enough in your abilities until somebody believes you, gives you the money. You're not going to get it here. Like, and you're like, God, dude, I'm paying money to be here. And he was like, don't Like,
Don't.
so
Unfortunately, the school scheduled him as your last class of the before graduation.
yes. Well, what's interesting is between the two of them, I think we really did get a really well-rounded,
Yes.
kind of view of the industry and the art. Like, so, like, I think ultimately it was a net positive, but man, he popped some balloons, and he was. We had screenwriting with him. He didn't mince words when people had some garbage.
I will say from the first instructor that Josh was talking about, the best thing I learned from him, it was about film, but it's something that I was able to actually just bring over into life, like how I actually view the world. And his advice was, when you watch a film, don't judge it based off of what you want it to be, based off of what the person who made it wanted to be. And that's the criteria that you need to bring when you look at film. And that's kind of how I see the world now too. It's like, I don't need to just put my judgments on everything. I just need to kind of understand the source of this and then decide whether or not it lives up to its own potential or
this is where we talked
idea.
about in some of our episodes where we would encounter a movie that is objectively good and subjectively bad.
Yes. And vice versa.
Right. Yeah, right. You know, like the director did a lot of really cool stuff. The story's fascinating. The execution was great, but it is not entertaining. It is not a good movie, right? It's not.
Or it's like its core was, we had a friend that we watched, and he had a lot of bad takes, but this was one of his good takes. We went and saw American Beauty. We walked out. He goes, "Man, that film was diseased." Like, yeah, it's not. Its core is not very ripe. It's but what a succinct way to describe something that's like kind of morally bankrupt. The movie is diseased, and then he went on to, like, his student film was worse. But so that same professor, like, this is honestly like one of the proudest moments I had in my life, is that he called me up and was like, "Let's go see." I think it was City of the Dead. It was like the last Romero zombie movie.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, it was just like middle of the day. I was like, "Yeah, I'll meet you there." So we go to the theater, and we're getting popcorn and stuff. He says, "Yeah," he said, "Oh, man, I was at this party, and there's all these kids that want to talk about all this deep stuff about film and all." And I said, "Fuck it, I want to watch a zombie movie." And so I called you.
I didn't need that high-minded talk. I just needed an idiot to go sit.
But the fact that I was like, this guy that I looked up to is like this intellectual giant, was like, I can let the pretense go and watch a stupid zombie movie with you. Like, I was like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I've arrived.
I think that moment with me is when he admitted that his guilty pleasure was Biodome with Pauly Shore. It's like, dude, you made me watch an African movie that had like 5-minute shots of goats because of the artistic, and you're telling me Biodome is one of your favorite movies.
People can be complex, Jason.
Yes, yeah, well, and
Exactly.
there was a great lesson in that too. And we had a good time. That was probably one of my favorite theater experiences. Because I like when people are able to be their true self. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like show you a side of, like, yeah, I like dumb stuff. Because it's okay.
It's like
to like dumb
it's like
stuff.
finding
As
out
we
like
talked
an
about.
F1 driver drives a Toyota Corolla in his spare time. Like, it's,
Right.
Well, it shows though
both,
that,
right? You know,
it shows that you can enjoy dumb stuff as long as you're like, well, this is dumb stuff, and I like dumb stuff occasionally. Like, this is just me shutting down and letting Pauly Shore talk funny. with one of the lesser Baldwins.
Right. Well, yeah, and that sometimes, it's like we do go deep down the rabbit hole sometimes, but sometimes it is just that. Like the Three Stooges movie that we've talked about like a billion times. Like, that is not a deep film. It's not supposed to be, and it's like
it works where it's supposed to work.
Sometimes, no matter, freaking Albert Einstein had watched the Marx Brothers. I mean, I don't know if he did. I'm sure he did. He's not around to contest that, so we can't say whether or not he did or not. But I would like to imagine that he would watch.
If his estate wants to sue us, the average settlement is $32,812.
He would watch Forgetting Sarah Marshall and laugh.
All right, so I've already mentioned that I liked the documentary episode. What are some of your favorite episodes?
To whom are you speaking?
To either of you, whichever one talks first.
Looking back, so I really liked, in no particular order here, but I really enjoyed like our mob one that we did, the mob films. I thought that, I got to talk about it because I just enjoy that genre a lot, and it was the first time I'd ever had an opportunity. Because this is kind of a personal, right? Nobody else in my life really loves those movies like I do. So it's the first time I was able to have like a
nobody on this podcast likes those movies. I know. As you found out.
Well, yeah, bittersweet. But you endured it with me. And
we indulged you.
Yes, that's
just like Ridley Scott.
That was the other one I really liked. It took Jason being out finally to finally get that to air.
What it took was Josh. Essentially, the same thing that kept you from doing it is same thing that got you to do it. Is Josh just being lazy and not prepared, not wanting to do anything? Because when I was out, and it was like 2 days before you have to have an episode. Josh, let's do the Ridley Scott.
Huzzah!
Fair enough. You'd be surprised about how much of my life is dictated by that very set of circumstances.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also want to point out you waited 4 years to do that episode, and the biggest thing you said was, "I like the sound editing."
That was
That's
was that so hard? You couldn't give me that. That was all I wanted to say, and you made me wait 4 years to put that to tape. And so,
I like the music in Blade Runner.
So
you turned into Simple Jack on that episode. You pushed so hard for
Leave the Gun
in my head movies.
Episode season 1, episode 14 was the mob one, and then I can't recall. It was early season 1. I think this was our most listened to episode. Was the zombie episode?
It's up there, yeah.
And
the zombie episodes were fun.
That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking about it and just whatever. But another thing I really liked was listening to Josh's hate boxes. I actually found those really fun.
Really?
Too. Yeah. Almost all of them were like, I don't know. I mean, this won't shock anyone who's listening to the podcast. I rarely listen to the podcast. I always listen to the hate box. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. And that was, and in that same vein, I think I did a few of them too. One of my favorite ones that I did was the one where I got to talk about
Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh no, that was a good one too. But no, the one where I talked about all creatures great and small.
Mm-hmm.
That, not widely listened to, but it was a thing that's mattered to me for a really long time, and I've never had a place to like put that down somewhere. And so to kind of share that memory.
Some of the hate boxes I really enjoyed, and they were just like they were things that I wanted to get off my chest.
It was like a diary almost.
Some of them weren't like I really had strong opinions about Skinamarink, and I knew that it was kind of a very divisive film, and I wanted my 2 cents out there on that because I thought it was a worthwhile film, and I think he's currently working on this new film, so I'm really excited to see what he does because it was like this dude like, not to be disparaging, but a nobody, made a film for no money and got theatrical release and got a lot of buzz. Like that's
That's the
that
dream,
was
right?
interesting among aside from the context of the film, and then like on Twitter for him to be like, "Hey man, thanks." I was like, "Oh,
Oh, that's
wow,
cool. Yeah.
that's
We
that's
also had
awesome."
Mark Hamill retweet us once. That was neat.
Twice.
Oh. I tracked it down. It was season 1, episode 17. The topic that wouldn't die is the zombie episode. If you're finding this podcast sometime in the future and you want to start with the greatest hits, that's that's a good one to start with. I think it was.
Is that the one where I did the "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year" intro?
Yes.
And like that was probably my favorite bumper. I worked really hard on that, so you should appreciate it.
I also
You remember that time I
really
did that
enjoyed
bumper?
the when we started doing the movies that ended with 3, the movies that ended with 2. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
that ended up being pretty. I was not super behind that, but it worked. It worked well.
Yeah. That was because we got a weird variety of things that kind of
Mhm.
that had no other connection other than having been made in the year, And I always looked forward to those. In fact, that's one of the things I'm saddest about is because I was looking forward to doing the 4s, but because you get just an odd hodgepodge of good films that we usually had not already talked about before, and so
I think my favorite part of that is when Josh started going through a list of films and chastising us for not having talked about them when he didn't even see them until like at least a decade later.
yeah, you
That tracks.
You've seen it? What's wrong with you? Like, tell me what you thought about it. I haven't seen it. Yeah, that's a
I'm just disappointed you haven't.
yeah.
I remember the biggest offender was you're chastising us for not mentioning Jurassic Park when I knew that you had only seen it right before Jurassic World had come out.
Yeah. I did see Jurassic Park 3 in the movie theater, and they overbooked the theater, and so I had to sit in the aisle and watch it. I was one with the acrobatics girl at the end, right? Jeff Goldblum's like adopted daughter.
I think that might be the second one.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Whichever one it was, that's when I was like, this is bull.
Yeah.
I am highly disappointed in this experience.
What about you, Josh? What are some of your favorite episodes?
I liked every episode where we had a guest.
Yeah.
Those were my favorite. Like, I know Adam wasn't around for some, but like
That was your favorite part, right?
right? But because we did the early days of Fox, which is just like a fascinating.
It's a
time
weird,
for us,
yeah.
It's just like it, and like that's some old timers sitting at Hardee's in the morning, kind of like talk like for our generation.
Well,
Like,
it's funny to look at Fox now and to look at Fox back then. Like it was so experimental and throwing spaghetti against the wall.
well, and how much of it that worked,
Yeah.
and they were derided for it, became like emulated by the rest of the industry. Like they blazed
Adult
a
animation and
lot
all
of
that
trails,
stuff,
but it was just like it was truly something new and unique and exciting to witness. So to be able to talk about that and share that experience with people was really cool. We had Vincent Gargiulo on who wrote the Taste the Biscuit that became super viral later. That was cool because like I just found his videos on YouTube and like he was making these really awesome music videos and it was just him and I was like, man, I want to know about how he's doing this and stuff. And like he was like, yeah, I'll bring the whole band on. I was like, that's awesome. And we had a really cool conversation. And then we had Marcy and Bede from the Super Network and then Patrick from Vintage Video. That was really cool. And having the guys, 2 of the 4, I think, that do Green Church. We had producer John and everybody on different podcasts. Like we did the Haunted House episode, then we did Sword Sandals.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that
to
was
me,
fun.
that was like having like superstars on.
Yeah.
Because like watching those guys go like meteoric and
Slum it down.
but to also get them out of, give them a chance to talk about, because the haunted house episode was really fun.
Yeah, it was.
And
And we had Stephen Foxworth from Disenfranchised winner.
Oh, yeah.
Donner. Episode.
that was an awesome
An honor for
episode,
Donner.
too.
That was yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was a deep dive episode. But just like, we know each other so well, and very few surprises except for the Magnolia thing that I won't ever get over. But to have that kind of like fresh intake.
When I die, you're going to go to my funeral and throw a DVD of Magnolia on my casket as it lowers into the ground. That'll be
watch it now, you son of a bitch. I hope Paul Thomas Anderson's waiting for you down there.
I can almost guarantee he is.
How dare you, sir? Wes Anderson will be waiting for you.
All the Andersons.
The Magnificent Ambersons as well.
Anderson
But that just
Cooper's
threw a
there too.
typo.
He's like, I didn't even know what I did wrong. Just all the Andersons are going.
Anderson Cooper.
That's twice in one episode.
I'll go for a three-peat.
I will say, like, there are episodes when we've done recording, especially when we did two, back to back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That my face just hurts
From
because
laughing.
I'm laughing so hard.
Yeah, those were good times.
And it's that's really why I've kept doing this. It's good medicine. It is a way to just kind of have fun, talk about something I like, but at the same time go on our patented rants. It's just these tangents that have nothing to do.
Well, and when I was editing, we record episode, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of crap, and I go back and listen to it, and you gotta listen to it over and over again. You're cutting out all the ums and ahs and stuff, and I'd be like,
not
man,
in this episode.
Man, that's pretty damn good.
I will say, so I want to express my extreme gratitude for the two of you for doing the technical work on this and never having made me do any of the editing. So thank you for that. But I also, more than many times, I would say on the balance, more often than not, I would end a recording session. And I think Jason hit it on the head when we would do two at once. I think when we got a stride in our second episodes, particularly, I would end the night going like Ralphie whenever he was writing his letter at Christmas, going, "Oh man, that's good." Like I would end the night being, "Wow, that was a great episode." I could feel that we had done something that was just like good. It was a net positive. That
if only anyone else felt that way.
It doesn't matter. I mean, no one who knows us at all. I think all three of us suffer from this condition, which is we will laugh at our own jokes even if no one else in the room is laughing. That doesn't matter at all.
That actually makes it funnier to me.
Yes.
Yeah, the silence is in some ways an accolade, I think.
Yeah.
I will also just kind of hint at another reason why, we're laughing so much after the end of two episodes is another part of editing is getting rid of the sound of bottle caps being twisted off, cans opening. So,
yeah.
I've been drinking again.
I think that's also another favorite part. Like Josh and I have been friends for so long that occasionally I will throw something out there that I know only Josh knows what I'm talking about. And just to get his reaction. That's the only reason I do it. And it's
we said we weren't going to talk about that one night in Bangkok again.
But those two nights in Shanghai are fair game. So
chess.
I was just going to say we've actually never left the country. So just but like I said, it's fun hanging around you guys. I'm sad that I'm not going to do it anymore.
So the next iteration of this will be the live play along of our role playing game sessions, which after we cut out all the stuff that doesn't make it to the air will be about 15 minutes.
yeah.
of actual gameplay.
And that's mostly silence.
That's Josh doing math out loud. Okay, 17 plus 3.
Or me going, I cannot believe you not get this clue.
High or low?
I think if somebody was willing to edit, I think some of those would be fun. But
I think some of
No,
those
because
would
you'd
be
have to
a lot.
edit out the fun stuff.
That's right, all the things.
we can leave some of the stuff in.
It would just be a super cut of us going, that's all that we could air.
I tell magnificent stories in my role playing games. They're legends.
They're very nearly admissions of war crimes, is what they are.
The Hague has a file on you as a GM.
More than once have you told a story that we all thought was true, and then at the very last second you go, allegedly.
In
I'm
Minecraft.
calling 9-1, and then you go, allegedly. I'm like, all right, well, maybe it's not true.
Just like Josh announced it on Twitter that we were wrapping up this podcast, I did let the mayor of Hollywood know. And I did get a message back, and I'm going to read it here for the first time. Who?
Damn you, Mayor McCheese.
That was the most accurate thing I've ever heard.
How did you get this number?
That's right.
New phone, who dis?
I think about you all the time. I don't even know who you are.
So our next podcast is going to be a minute by minute discussion of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. The last 7 seasons.
But we're going to do it in reverse order.
Yes. Within the episode.
That's right.
Okay, the first episode is going to be minute 26 of
And then it goes
episode
backwards
7.
in time from there. It's an avant-garde thing. It's Josh's vanity. It's Josh's vanity podcast.
That would be my vanity project. By the way, like if so the guy that plays Garth Marenghi has written 2 books
As Garth
Marenghi, and the you can get the audio, him reading the audio version on YouTube. And Jesus God Almighty, it is so it is very specific. Like it is, if it is in your wheelhouse, it is like transcendent. Otherwise, you're probably like, this is awful. But it's amazing.
So that does remind me, I think one of the favorite things that I've heard Josh say on this podcast that stuck with me is when we talk about, so I think you should leave. And he said, you either love this show and think it's the funniest thing ever, or you're that guy's wife.
That I will put my hand on the Bible on that statement. I was rewatching it wasn't the Carl. I made y'all watch the Carl Havoc before we gamed last week. But I was watching one of the things with my wife, and I was reminded of that because she was like not feeling it. I was like, God, this is so funny. And I wanted to be like, I wanted to like sit in front of her and say, like, let me break this down for you, why this is genius and why this writing is so good. Like, but I knew that I would be like not only sleeping on the couch, I'd probably be like looking for an apartment. But I just felt like the need to be like I have to deconstruct this because the patterns are so complicated.
I will say this, one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, like I said, talking about films I love, and it's very difficult to find people that kind of link in a lot. One of my best experiences this year is I actually got to see David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia on the big screen.
Oh, cool.
one of those where they do the classic movies in the theaters. And I've only ever seen it on TV. Like, my life with this movie has been an ever expanding experience and joy of it, because I first saw it on TV when I was a kid on the old CRT, like a 19-inch pan and scan.
Look at you, man, with a 19-inch.
Yeah. It was at someone else's house.
Yeah, okay.
It was in the big room.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when flat screens came out, then you get the actual aspect ratio, and it's like, oh,
there's so much more to the movie.
This is such a great experience.
Yeah.
And to see that on the big screen, like, it can only be trumped by seeing it like in 70 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just such a fantastic experience. And there was other people. It wasn't a full theater, but there were other people in there, and enjoying it together was a thing. I was talking to my my cousin's wife this Thanksgiving, and we were just talking about things we'd done that. And I was like, oh yeah, I saw, Lawrence of Arabia on the big screen. And she just kind of looked at me with a blank stare. And it's like, it's a very famous movie, very critically acclaimed movie, from the guy who did Dr. Zhivago and Bridge on the River Kwai. Just still a blank stare. It's like, ask your middle son. He went to film school. He knows what these are.
Dr. Zhivago is amazing.
It is a good movie, yeah.
What's great about things like that is that that everyone there is
a true fan.
Or the wife of a true fan.
So, Alamo Drafthouse, which is, I don't want to live near one, but when I lived in an area that had them, they would routinely do these things, and they would do themed things around it. So, like, because they served food, right? And one of the greatest nights I ever had was seeing Big Trouble in Little China on the big screen, and it was a packed house, all middle-aged white dudes, basically.
Nothing or double.
Nothing or double. And they give out like little pins and little souvenirs, and the menu was themed. I can't recall what the dishes were, but they were all, Big Trouble in Little China themed stuff. And you're right, like being this is a microcosm of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find your people. Even in the internet age, it's hard to find your people who like get it the way you get it,
But yeah, so like we recently, there's a kind of a pseudo IMAX theater here in town at the Explorium, which is like a interactive kind of museum type thing, and they
it's a BMAX.
Yeah. So at Halloween they screened Practical Magic, and they had all these vendors there and you could make mixed magic potions and stuff, and then for Christmas, they did the Nakatomi Christmas party, and they blew some stuff up and showed Die Hard. And they had, I think I sent you guys the pictures. Yeah. Like they had a mannequin in the elevator that had the shirt that said "Ho ho ho, now I have a machine gun." And they had you could do a photo thing where it looked like you were in the duck, the ducks.
Yeah,
and like that was a great experience, because like everybody there, like they made people raise their hand. These foolish people raised their hand and said they'd never seen the film. But everybody there was like on the same page. Right. Like, you love Die Hard. Do you think Die Hard's a Christmas movie? And so many people were dressed up like either like 80s workout gear or dressed like people from the movie. And it was not like the typical. They weren't all like super nerds, because it was just like people that like Die Hard and wanted to just go have fun and goof off, and it was a cool theater experience. Speaking of which, we should probably talk about films that we liked this year. Like, I only went to the movie theaters like maybe twice this year, and one was on my birthday. We went and saw Maxine, which is the third part of Ty West's trilogy about Pearl. There's X, Pearl, and then Maxine. Each one is kind of a different horror genre. X is like grindhouse, Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque kind of horror film, and Pearl is strangely like a homage to like early 30s, 40s Technicolor cinema and brutal horror with grotesque horror. And then Maxine was like kind of a giallo 80s. And it was so good. It's such a great, I wouldn't say it was even an emulation of those time frames or an homage, but it's just so seeped in it. That was good. And I watched a lot of horror this year. I watched the
presidential election.
Yes. Late Night with the Devil was really good.
You already said the presidential election. That was
Yes. My daughter and I watched all of the Hell House movies, which are kind of old, but they're like found footage horror films. They're really entertaining. It had some genuinely like creepy jump scares. We also watched all the Insidious movies, and we started on some of the classics. We watched Nightmare on Elm Street and Child's Play and stuff. So that's been cool watching those films with the kids. And my older daughter, we mostly have been watching the second era Doctor Who, starting with the Christopher Eccleston. We're like, I think we're in the middle of the Matt Smith run, and that's been really fun because like
she saw these things when she was like 3, and we were watching it first run, and like, no, you like this when you're a kid. She's like, this is awesome. I'm like, I know. Like, that's why we're watching.
That's mostly what I've been spending my time watching. What about you guys?
Well, as I said, I went and saw David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia on Big Screen. Awesome experience. I haven't really done a lot of in the theater stuff this year, just because other things. What I did do, there was a local bar here, like on Thursday nights, they would kind of do like a movie thing. And it felt a lot like, Josh, when we were in college, we had the dinner and a movie thing that we would do. We'd get together at somebody's house, they'd cook, and we'd watch a movie. And so they would do a lot of things like that. And so I saw just like a lot of the old stuff, but they would do fun stuff like Troll 2.
Oh, fun.
And Labyrinth, and they encouraged, because it was a bar, they encouraged a drinking game, make more money. But, like they found it online, like, every time you see like David Bowie in the background, take a drink. And, when you start playing that game, it's like, yeah, they hit him in a lot of these shots, like a picture of him or a statue or something like that. So, like I said, that's a real fun experience. A lot of people who are there specifically for that, because it's a Thursday night. Most people aren't out. They're there to watch that movie and to hang out and to have a good time. And it's a great experience. But I also watched the new Beetlejuice movie.
Oh, yeah. We went and saw that in the theater.
Which was good. It could have been better. And I think the problem is, and we've talked about this before, like movies like this, they're beholden too much to the original. And you see them copying a lot of those big moments. I think that ruined it, because there was like 2 really good plots in there that could have been great, but they didn't really develop too much on either one.
It was definitely a bloated story.
Yes.
I was not disappointed with it because it was like,
it was still fun to watch. Like,
right,
Michael Keaton is fantastic.
It didn't destroy so many of these like legacy sequels. It wasn't like, oh my god, now you've kind of ruined the first movie because this was so terrible.
Yeah,
it kept the spirit and the fun. It was definitely trying to do a whole lot, and it did it okay. So overall, it was good. But in context of all the other things that I've tried to do that have like utterly failed, that kind of elevates it, because it didn't totally screw it up.
No.
I enjoyed it. I think you're right that there's probably one too many plots, but I think the way they handled the dad was like spectacular, because they didn't erase the character, but they erased the actor.
Yeah.
And and they did it in a way that respected the character, but at the same time disrespected the actor.
I read about that.
And it was like, I was like, that's holy crap. That is like the best
way to
That
handle
was the
that.
most brilliant part of that
Yeah,
movie.
it was totally because it was all in character, but it was doing two things. It was furthering the plot, it was honoring the character, and at the same time just pissing on the actor who is a terrible person. I was like, that is amazing that they were able to deftly fly through that canyon. Like that was great script writing, but there was probably one too many plots.
Yeah.
And they were all like I said, they all had like kernels of being like very good. They all could have been their own movie.
Exactly.
I think if they would have dropped one or two of the subplots, it would have been a much stronger film. But overall, like I was not disappointed. I'll probably rewatch it now.
Yeah, it's worth a rewatch. Adam won't because it's Tim Burton, but
Yes, this is true.
I think it did well. It could have been so much better. That's the only thing I think is a downside to it is that it had so much more potential, and it didn't achieve it. But it also it brings up like I saw an article the other day about the new Indiana Jones game. The Indiana Jones is what, the Great Circle, is that the name of it? And somebody pointed out, it's like, this is what you should do with old IP instead of legacy sequels. And I think because everything I've heard about that game, people love it. They think it's fantastic. They think it is Indiana Jones, and it's not the last two Indiana Jones movies that we got.
I literally played the intro, which is basically the bumper from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was super fun because it was like it automatically brought me back to being a kid, like how I dreamed of being Indiana Jones as a kid. And I'm sitting here moving him through the, first person through, and like I kept telling my wife, I was like, there's digital Alfred Molina. He's going to digitally betray me. And she was like, stop. And I was like, no, that's digital Alfred Molina. So you don't know how long I've waited for this. And then I haven't had time to get back to it. But it's everything I've heard is that it's very, and that's interesting. That's a whole nother podcast of like how video games can be art, just like
maybe that should be our next episode. Oh,
well, I mean, again, video games, they can be art. They can be just goof.
I think people are starting to realize that now. It's where movies were by the time it gets to the 40s and 50s. They're realizing the artistic aspect of it.
Yeah, like I've been playing the I was telling I don't know if I was telling y'all this or not, but that my kids love the Resident Evil 2 remake or remastering or whatever. It's like all new graphics and all new puzzles and stuff. But they won't play it because it's too hard and scary. So they make me play it. And it's like, and my heart cannot take it because it was already stressful enough when I was 20. Now I'm like 47. I'm like, oh my God, I only got 3 bullets. There's all these zombies coming and something jumps out. And I'm like, and they're like, keep going, Dad, keep going. So it's nice family fun.
Your dad.
But good God, like, I'm just too old to like. I can't live in those survival horrors anymore.
How about you, Adam? What media have you consumed this year?
So before I do that, if I ever win the lottery, the first thing I'm going to do is commission a Magnolia themed video game. And then once it's made and at print, I'm going to cancel the whole project. So that you know it exists, but you'll never play it.
I would not want to play that game.
Well, then, contrary to that, I'll make you play it. I'll trap you in a room.
Adam's whole view is a bunch of sad people, and then they're sadder. So, have you ever not seen a good movie? That is the trajectory of all great movies. Is there are sad people, and then they're sadder.
So this was the year, I think. It may prove I may counter this at some other point, but I think this is the year I finally decided. I went to see Dune 2 in theater. I went to a midnight show with a house guest that was coming to stay with us, and we got perfect seats right in the center of the theater. 10 minutes after the movie started, a dude and his girlfriend came in and sat directly in front of us, and she was on her phone the whole time, and he talked the whole time just about what was going on in the movie, like commentary. And it's like the last several times I've gone to, and the exclusion to this rule would be like an Alamo Drafthouse or the thing with the Die Hard, right? I would go to that. But I think in a regular run movie in a regular movie theater, I'm out. Like I have a better setup here at home now. I mean, I've invested over the last 2 years to get a really high quality system. I've got a 100-inch TV down here, and like I can reproduce better quality than I can get in a theater unless I just rent out the whole theater or something. Like it's just not worth it. So,
which we did for Beetlejuice, and it was fantastic.
I've done that. Like, yeah, I mean, I would do that. But
I think, I mean, it was something stupid like $200.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount of money.
We had like 3 or 4 families.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being like
about
actually cheaper.
Yeah.
It was $10 a pop.
Yeah. It's not a bad deal if you can find a little, especially like a little mom and pop theater in your area that can do those kinds of things, you know. I've done that a couple times. That's a fair thing to do because then you can kind of choose your audience, right? That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I watched a lot of TV this year. I really wanted to catch up or do some stuff, and I know you guys did too. So I think we'll have something to talk about here. But I'll just rattle off a few, and then we can pick whichever one you want to talk about. But in no particular order was Shogun, Fallout, and The Gentleman, the Netflix series that I liked.
Didn't get a chance to
so
see that.
It's you won't
Any
like
of them.
it. So you wouldn't like The Gentleman because
don't tell me what I don't like.
it is Snatch, but over episodic form.
I hate it.
So let's end on where we started, which is that you're wrong about Guy Ritchie's way he tells a story. I really, really liked it. It's got all the traditional Lock, Stock, and Barrel type of or Snatch type of like arcs and mini arcs within the story and kind of all tying it together in the end. It's a crime family thing. It's got the aristocracy versus the poor and the criminal elements. Super entertaining. I was really sick. I came down with something and I was down for like 2 days or 3 days. I missed a bunch of work. And it was one of those situations where I like fever dreamed watched this whole thing and binged all 8 episodes over a couple of days. And then I went back and watched it again later and it held up for me. I really like that. I think probably the best thing I saw this year was Shogun.
Oh yeah. Fantastic. And I love how it didn't insult the viewer by translating everything to English.
Yes. There's so many things about it that was great.
It
was cinema. It was true film. I mean, it was like great.
That was prestige television.
Yes.
Yeah, at the highest levels. It was perfect.
I agree. Yeah.
I was just
blown away with the quality of
stunned.
That. Yes,
absolutely stunned at every. There was so much happening like in every scene that was like it was just
it made me put my phone down.
Oh my god!
Which is the highest compliment I could give.
Fallout was a big surprise because I did not have high hopes for it just because
these things typically aren't good.
Yeah, and I like I'm a big Fallout fan, like especially early Fallout stuff.
1 and 2 top down, turn based. Bad graphics, fun games.
Right. And like it fired on all cylinders from the very first scene. And I was and there were so many it did fan service correctly because it was not intrinsic to the story. It had an independent story to tell, but every episode I was going, ooh, look. That's
callbacks and Easter eggs. Yeah. Lots of stuff
that's cheesy poofs.
Yeah.
That's I mean, it was just done perfect. And Walton Goggins was amazing.
Walton Goggins is kind of a secret sauce.
Yeah. Was it Lucy Purnell?
I think
is the lead. I think she's in Yellow Jackets, so I haven't gotten around to watching it. But she carried the show very well. She did. She had that naive optimism and then like disillusionment. Her journey was mirrored so much the first Fallout.
Yeah.
story. And then all the stuff in the vault was it was great. It was, and I cannot express how happy I was that they didn't screw it up.
A friend of mine pointed out, it's like there's also the stuff that's not overt, like the cheesy poofs and stuff like that. Like, clearly I can't remember the character's name, but the one who takes the Brotherhood armor, it's like that dude clearly has the perk Idiot Savant.
All right. That's funny.
And Bloody Mess and stuff like that. It's like there's all these little things. If you've played the games, like,
as you said that, I think he definitely had the Bloody Mess perk.
Yes.
That's
a perk
fantastic.
I would get that the only thing it does for the game is have, like, especially in the first game, just these not very good animations, but fun to watch animations of when you
you get the most violent death animation of every person. He was a good character too. He had a pretty great arc.
Yeah.
It was just for an ensemble cast show, it, and the fact that, like, you're able to buy into this absurd world.
Yeah.
Like, it just everything so well. Not to mention having Matt Berry as the Mr. Handy voice.
Cannot.
That was like beyond genius.
I paused it and went, "Oh, I'm going to love this." Like, I wanted to savor the moment before it happened.
Yeah. But, like, it brought, like, bringing the pathos of the Ghoul character, like, pre-war and stuff.
Yeah.
And like that was, there's really good storytelling that still didn't stomp all over the quote unquote lore of the games, which often stomp all over it themselves. But it's like, it's a video game. Like, I got over being mad about the Brotherhood of Steel being in Fallout 3 like 20 years ago. So you can get over it too.
Yeah.
We do get better.
So the only other film that I thought was worth mentioning, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I, as we all know, am a huge fanboy of Mad Max Fury Road, and I liked Furiosa that came out this year as well. I thought it was an adequate sequel. If I gave Fury Road a 10, I would give this like an 8 probably.
Okay.
And
I would say definitely adequate. It does not live up to Furiosa or Fury Road. It just, and it's no knock on like Anna Taylor-Joy or anything like that, or Chris Hemsworth. Like, I think Hemsworth actually,
I agree,
he was my favorite part of the movie. Like, he understood the assignment in that one.
I think his parents met on Thunderdome or something. I read somewhere. So there's some like weird connection.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But I think it was well done. It did not have the impact that Fury Road had.
Right.
It was no happy feet.
No.
But
I think probably oddly one of the problems is it's too verbose. Like, there's too much dialogue.
Talking. Yeah. Too much exposition too, right? There's just a lot of like, I think they wanted it to, because it was so, this is a famously, he wanted to film both of them at the same time, right?
Yeah.
George Miller had intended to film Fury Road and Furiosa in sequence and kind of release them back to back. But then Warner Brothers, there was some kind of protracted contract negotiation or whatever. So I think what they ended up doing was overcompensating by trying to draw in a broader audience that had not maybe seen Fury Road by kind of leveling it. And it, honestly, like, if Fury Road didn't exist, if this was the next thing in the Mad Max saga and I'd only seen this on its own merits, not compared to Fury Road, it's a good film.
Yeah.
And it exists well within, and it's interesting because it doesn't have much Mad Max in it, right? It's like
you see him in the universe, right? There's the tangential connections,
right? Which is the whole thing with the Johnny Appleseed theory, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody's kind of take on what Mad Max is this apocryphal character that doesn't really exist or whatever. Anyway, I thought it was worth watching. I definitely think it's another one of those that if you could see it in a big format somewhere, that's worth doing. Again, I'm a weird nerd about audio, but the the Atmos audio in this was spectacular. The way it was channeled and just the way they create the encapsulation of like you just feel like you're in the film. I 100% love
This
it.
episode brought to you by Atmos.
Yes, please sponsor us. We'll bring back the podcast.
We're gonna be like Arthur Conan Doyle. It's like there's gonna be such a clamoring for a return that we have to bring ourselves back from Richelieu Falls.
I think
Like-
the much more likely scenario is that people will send us money to not come back. Thank you.
I can live with that.
So,
No, we're going to be like Firefly. Like, no one pays attention to us while we're here.
yeah.
But, like, it was the greatest thing. They should bring that back. There would be more
As
of
soon
that.
as the first one of us dies, it'll go viral. That's why. Where we can never recreate the magic, you know? That's
By the way, I don't think Firefly should come back. Give it up, people. That's my controversial take of the whole podcast. Let it go.
And if we would still have a Gmail account after this, that
people could write and tell you
people
that you're
but we're not. No one was paying attention to that Gmail account to begin with. They're especially not going to do it now. So yeah, I think it's time to kind of wrap it up for one final time.
Put the final nail in the coffin.
I do want to say that it's like I said, it's been fun doing this with you guys. I do love the people who have listened and reached out to us. We've appreciated you just supporting us just by listening. Like it's amazing to think that us sitting here rattling on endlessly could bring joy to someone else. I don't understand it myself, but it's been great sharing it with you guys.
I think it's time we tell him, Josh. This is all a Truman Show thing. None of those people are real, Jason. We all set it up just to. All the fans are fake. Everyone is.
Jason, it's time to tell him that he's been double Truman Show.
Oh my God! Everything makes so much more sense now.
Ashton Kutcher is going to come out and tell you you're wrong.
It's the classic prank. Yeah.
That would be the best Truman Show sequel is the double Truman Show.
He was in on
It's
it the
like
whole
they
time.
find out the director finds out that his whole life was was the TV show actually.
And then he finds out it was only on Freevee.
Which is where you'll find our podcast archived.
I'm on effing Tubi.
I agree, Jason. I think it is. I've had the great privilege in my life to create a lot of things as artistic ventures, and being able to have someone in the world appreciate it. It's the most humbling experience you can have, because you when you do something, whether you write a book or paint a picture or whatever, if you create something at all, you never know how it's going to be received externally. And so for somebody like me that sort of craves that external validation, that's really a nice thing to kind of get that.
That sounds antithetical to what you've told me in private, because I crave that external validation. You do it.
No, you should not,
for whatever,
because you'll never get it. You need to work on that.
You shouldn't, because you're an addict.
I just want to say over the past 4 years that I've come to think of you all as people that I have met.
With whom I have shared a semi-regular experience. And that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. So ditto to that. There have been more people that have listened and enjoyed this podcast than listened to and enjoyed my every iteration of musical output that I've created. So that's something. And more people than have enjoyed reading my book. So this is the high water mark.
All right, Josh, I think it's only fitting, since you were the first voice anybody heard on the podcast, you should be the last. So take us out for one last time.
What is how 2000 sing when he's being turned
Daisy.
off.
Daisy.
Imagine me and you, and you and me.
It's like the Good Place when they're trying to shut down Janet. You remember
Yeah.
in there she's got that fail safe where she begs you not to end it. Please don't kill me, Michael.
I think this marks 150 episodes thereabout. Sounds like we've made it to syndication. We'll be on TBS
Just riding those residuals.
at 10:15 every day, right after Gilligan's Island and before the 2-hour block of Brady Bunch. So thank you, anyone who has listened this far and this much. We appreciate it. And we will still be out here in the ether talking about the same thing ad infinitum until somebody pulls the plug on the interwebs. Good night and good luck.